Hey guys, what's up? We were discussing this the other day about using crochet. I'm trying to get my camera set up so y'all can see. Sorry about that, but using crochet in with your knitting projects. And I like to sometimes chain, like if chain my starting items and then pick up the stitches with my knit needles to make sure I have the exact number of chains I want, and that way I'm not wasting any yarn instead of using the traditional long tail cast on. And I'll just chain it with my crochet hook and then pick up the stitches, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So if you do long tail cast on, sometimes you'll have too much yarn left over. And I know some people have tips and tricks for how you can try to estimate. But if you have a yarn where you only have one skein of it, and you're already going to be playing yarn chicken with the project you picked out for it, because the size of a project will differ depending on the person's tension. So if you can crochet that cast on, so you know you're getting the exact number of stitches you need, and the size H8 is equivalent to a size 8 knitting needle. So there's a needle conversion and crochet hook chart that you can get from alpacadirect.com, where you can see if I have a size 0 needle, you know, it's going to be a thread needle as the equivalent. Size 1 would be a B1, size 2 needle would be a C2. And so you go down to H8, and that's a size 8 needle, and that's what I knit this cowl on. So I'm getting ready to cast off the top, I can't think right now. the top 2x2 rib on this cowl. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I mean by picking up the stitches. You see the back humps on your crochet. See, those are the back loops, those little humps. And on the top you have your V-stitch. You're going to want to go into these because that'll leave you a nice edge with a nice V-stitch on top, that if you wanted to pick it up later to do something else with it. So I'll get one of my knitting needles here. So you can see what I'm talking about. So I don't want to waste any yarn. So I'm just going to pick up that loop that I was crocheting off of. Okay, I'm going to turn my work around. And I'm not going to go into this bump. I'm going to go into the second bump. And this is cotton yarn, so it's a little splitty. I might have to use an actual needle. Hold on. These are some wooden clovers. So I'm going to go into that bump. You go up under it, yarn over, pull it through, and it could be somebody from the game just came on. Give me a sec, I'll be right with you. And so usually you can yarn over. Now I'm discombobulated. Yarn over and pull it through. If I didn't want to show y'all this, it would be like smooth as butter. Okay, let me move some of my stuff out of the way. It's getting in the way. Need that, so I'm going to put it over there. Alright. Okay. On the game, they call me Miss D, because my main character's name is Del Quan. At least that's the character I started with, playing with this guild. And so they call me Miss D. So apparently they need me to heal for them for something. So you see how you're picking up those stitches? You're just going under that loop, that back bump, yarning over and pulling it through. and that way you transfer your crochet project onto your knitting needles. You haven't wasted any yarn by using the long tail method, and that way you have a better chance at playing yarn chicken with that one skein. Okay, so that is how I would use crochet to cast on my stitches. Okay, and you just go down and you continue that, picking those stitches up until you finish. Okay, and that's how you can cast on to your crochet using your crochet chain instead of doing a long tail cast on. Alright, so now if you're going to cast off a project, so let's say you wanted your project to stay nice and stretchy, you can use a stitch called Jenny Stretchy Bind Off, which is like this. And you can just determine how you want it to be. If you want it to be in pattern, or you don't care if it's not in pattern. But if you're going to do it in pattern, this is a 2x2 rib. Let me take my stitch marker off. So you will yarn over, pull it through, yarn over, pull it through, because these are 2 knit stitches. And then what you're going to do is you're going to pick up that first stitch that you cast off, that you knit, and you're going to pull this stitch over it like that. Okay, and you just bind off 1 stitch. Now if I want my bind off to remain nice and loose and stretchy for whatever project, if it was a hat for instance, then you would basically yarn over, then, and because I'm doing it in pattern, so this is a purl, so I'm going to go under that and then I'm going to pull it off. And then I'm going to take that yarn over and go over that purl stitch. And then I'm going to take the stitch that I bound off with before, and I'm going to go over that stitch. And that creates a long loop, which makes it really stretchy. So we're going to do another one, a regular purl bind off, a regular purl stitch. And we're going to go over that one, because you don't want to do a stretchy bind off every stitch, because then sometimes it would be too stretchy or it will pucker. So you want to, I usually do it every 3 to 4 stitches, the stretchy bind off. So I'll do a couple more and then I'll show you the crochet. It's not going to bother anything doing it that way. And so this is another knit, and then we're going to bind this one off. And then we're going to do a purl. We're going to do the yarn over and a purl stitch. And so then we're going to take that yarn over and go over the purl stitch. And then we're going to take our previous stitch that was on the needle, and we're going to go over the other one. Okay, and so that's how you would do your bind off. And you can tell which stitches you did your long, because it's a elongated stitch. You can see which ones you did. So now if I wanted to cast off using crochet, this is my furls hook that I augmented, so I no longer have a warranty on it. Basically I took a fingernail file, because I like having a thumb rest, and I took a fingernail file and I flattened it out all the way down on this side, and then part of the way down on this side, this back side, so that I'll have a thumb rest, and that works better for me. That's just how I like my hooks. I prefer Susan Bates hooks, but I wanted to try furls. I like the way it feels in my hand. I just didn't like the fact that I didn't have a thumb rest, so I made me a thumb rest. I wouldn't advise you to do that, because I don't care if I voided my warranty on it. Oh well, it's, you know, I like experimenting with things and trial and error. Alright, so for the crochet bind off, I just did 2 while I was talking to y'all. So for the crochet bind off, since we're doing it in pattern, you're just going to use your crochet hook like you would a knitting needle. So this is a knit stitch, so I'm going to go in through the back loop, pull it out, like that, right? And I'm going to go through both loops, and that's like a single crochet. Now if you want it to be stretchier, you go through and stitch. So this is a purl stitch. You yarn over and carry it through that first loop, then yarn over and carry it through 2 loops, and that will make it more stretchy. See how big that stitch is when you do it like that? And that way you'll get your stretchy. See, that's how tight that is doing it the regular way. And that would keep it stretchy in pattern, but not puckering up because the stitches are too big all the way around. By using that stretchy bind off, if you use it in every stitch all the way around, it would be like this side over here. It would be very big. It might start curling, and you don't want that, because these stitches I have to pick up, and then I'm gonna knit the because I was worried about running out of yarn, so I went to the store and got more of this yarn so I could finish this project. So now I can pick up these stitches over here and do a real border on this side, so it'll match on this side, so it'll look nice and flat when I get done. So now I just have to finish binding off this side of the cowl in pattern, and like every 4 stitches I will do a stretchier stitch. See, I'm going under both of those, and you could also just go like this under one, and it'll be like a slip stitch. See, like a slip stitch, but that's gonna make it real tight. That's why I always do it like it's a half double crochet, because that usually turns out pretty good for me. And if you do it the slip stitch way, that would be more like the way you would do it with a knit stitch. But you can see how tiny, if it'll focus, you'll see how tiny that stitch is right there compared to the stitch beside it, compared to the stitch beside it. See what I mean? See how small that is? And then the stitches are bigger because of the different types of bind off you use. If you use the stretchy bind offs, the stitch is going to be a little bit bigger because you're going to yarn over first. If you use the slip stitch bind off, that's going to cause the smallest stitch. So take that into consideration, especially when you're binding off on something like a hat or socks. You want those stitches to remain stretchy so that you're not too tight on you when you go to put your sock on. And I'm going to go through that first one, yarn over, then go through 2. And that will create that triangle shaped larger stitch right there for my bind off. And that's how I bind off using my crochet hook. And it's pretty fast. It's a lot faster than me fiddling around with my knitting needles. But that's just me because I've crocheted longer than I've knit. Even though I've been knitting for more than 8 years, it's still, compared to crochet, I'm still not as comfortable as I would like to be with knitting. So I hope you guys, I hope that helps some of you a little bit, showing you that there are options when you combine knitting and crochet. Nothing but good things can happen if you just take time, don't rush yourself, and just do the project, you know, and just take your time and learn how to do the project. And that way you'll have it in your arsenal, because sometimes you just don't feel like sitting there tinkering with your knitting needles trying to bind off, when you could bind off and still have a very nice, see that how elastic that is, without being too loose, and without, it's not puckering anywhere. So you can still get a nice bind off, a real pretty bind off with your crochet needles, crochet hooks, and it'll still have that knit like appearance with the bind off. And the thing I like about doing it with the crochet hook is you can see those V's so well up there. So if I wanted to do something else with this, I could easily pick up one side of those needles, those stitches, and add more yarn, or add a trim, continue to add a trim, maybe put a shell border around it. It's easy to go ahead and go up under those stitches, because you get a full V stitch on the top of your project. When you do your crochet bind off, you get a nice, it's easy to go up under them, it's not too tight. And that's another reason why I like using crochet bind offs on my regular projects. Now, if it's a project where an aesthetic has been added to the pattern and you really want that, like a tubular cast off, Alcor cast on, then you know you need to follow the directions in your pattern to get that look that you want. This is just a basic cowl with the 2x2 rib edging on it, and so I really don't care about that, other than I want it to be nice and loose so that it's not going to tighten that hole for the neck, and it's going to be still be stretchy so that he can take, and he has enough room that he can pull that and twist it to get and to do like more than one wrap around his neck. Well, he'll be able to do two. This isn't made to do more than two wrap around. So I'm gonna let you guys go. I hope this helps someone. If not, then what can I say? I tried. All right, y'all take care.